I love all of the the coronavirus related emails that I get from like brands. You know what I mean? Like, well, like, hey, we understand these are unprecedented times, but we wanted to remind you that you can still buy shit and you should still buy stuff from us. Buy from us. Unprecedented.
Exactly. Please, Bath and Body Works.
Your family, safety, social distancing, but we're still here and you can buy from us.
I saw this morning that Neiman Marcus filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Yeah, I thought there was another, or maybe that's the one I saw a couple days ago. That I thought, J.
Crew.
Yeah, that's the one.
Also.
I'll tell you who's really going to go under, and they know they're going to go under, is GameStop. Because remember, they tried to stay open. They tried to argue that they were an essential business or whatever, because they sell fucking stuff that could possibly be used in an office, maybe. I don't know, computer cords and related stuff like that. I don't fucking know.
Yeah,
but they tried to argue that they were an essential business because they know they're gonna fucking go belly up, because everybody can just fucking download your video games. You can get them, order them online or whatever.
Yeah, I'm surprised that business is even still around, considering like the equivalents in other media formats, like fucking films and music.
Yeah,
and
like
stuff, all the stores
and like record stores and
yeah. Do you guys remember, like, right as there was the transition over to, like, the total digitalization and, like, streaming and stuff, particularly of movies, there was this brief moment, I don't know if it was everywhere, but I know in, like, New York City, like, I guess there were just these warehouses of DVDs that had been produced, with, like, long-term plans of, like, we're gonna, continue producing physical format, like, DVDs and shit, to expect them to be stocked in stores or whatever. And as those stores started to go under, there were all these like pop-up stores for a while, and they lasted for about like a year or two, where it was just like fucking insane cheap DVDs of the no organization, no categorization, just like we have 50 copies of like The Mask. Like $1. And I picked up a bunch of stuff. I have like a bunch of like, at that time, because I was really into I was still into the idea of like collecting physical media or whatever. So I bought like a bunch of old gangster movies and stuff. But it was weird. It was like those like bins that they used to have at like fucking Kmart and Best Buy, where it's like a $5 like Father's Day gift bin, where it's like action pack of like 5 movies. Somehow we got the distribution rights to that were like made for $10,000 a piece in 1975. But the concept was a store. Like the whole store was that. Yeah. Wild West times.
There's plenty of like retail space in New York that's like designated for that shady ass shit. Like the same, like in October it'll turn into costume.
Right.
Oh,
exactly.
sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was all those kinds of places, and just for a while they were like DVD surplus. It was a lot of fun. I don't know why I brought that up. A simpler time. You could pop in a DVD into the disc drive,
I really liked, I'll just say, on a side note regarding those, like, pop-up, like, seasonal costume stores, I really used to like shoplifting from them and, like, running, like doing, the receipt scam, where you, like, find a receipt and then you, like, go shoplift whatever's on the receipt and then you return it, because, like, nobody in those stores gives a shit.
Right, of course. They're all temp workers.
They're a temp worker making minimum wage. They don't give a fuck. They have the the easiest, most lenient return policy. I used to love those stores that time of year.
Specifically around that time of year.
That's the only time they're there.
Interesting. That's pretty cool.
So there's a little tip for you folks.
It's funny too. I was at an intersection yesterday in New York, and I saw a guy drop his receipt.
Yeah.
And I tried to yell out to be like, "Yo, dude!" But he had his headphones on and he had his mask on or whatever. Like he couldn't hear me or anything. And that's funny that like I'm like tying that in. That's the scenario that you'd be able to be like, let me see what this is all about.
Oh, sure. Just prowl the parking lot outside the store, look for receipts. You typically can't do that in the store you're going to then go into and shoplift. But like go to one Target where I don't give a fuck who sees me acting suspicious, and like look all over through the trash cans and in the shopping carts outside in the parking lot, and scavenge all the receipts I can get, and then go to a different Target.
But but then go in, shoplift that item, then come back in. Oh no, you don't even have to shoplift it.
Just
you
take
can
it, walk it right to customer service. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
All right. But what if it says like, a transaction was done on a credit card or something? That's when you have to find the kind of I don't give a fuck.
Well, they may have gotten stricter on, I'm not sure, but at least, taking Target as, an example, like back in the day, it couldn't be credit card. It would have to be cash or debit card. But if you got a debit card receipt, they would treat that the same as cash. They would be like, do you want this refunded on the card or do you want this refunded cash?
Got it.
So let me get that cash.
Got it. Very cool.
Fucking brilliant. I love it.
This is mutual aid.
Yeah.
This is mutual aid.
The funniest thing is, and it's happened a couple times, because you've got to get, because like, when you're looking for the item, you really got, because like, sometimes there'll be multiple items that are similar. You know what I'm saying? So you got to actually look at the code, like the little barcode or whatever, like on the shelf where the price tag is. You can check that, compare that to or at least know the number on the receipt, because you got to get that right, because there's nothing worse or more embarrassing or harder to explain than like walking up to customer service to return something and like, no, this isn't the right item. Like, oh, I don't know. That's weird.
That's really funny.
That's good, dude. That's good.
It's funny, like, I was in thinking about this stuff and thinking about, like, that is maybe something that would be useful to know in this now hellscape. If we didn't have this show, like, I don't know what the fuck I would do with all these thoughts about, like, literally us talking about and watching societal decline happen in front of our eyes. Like, as of this morning, 1 in 5 working Americans don't have a job. Mm-hmm. What the fuck is happening? What the fuck is happening?
Yeah, I think I'd mentioned on the last premium episode, but like I just like, what is it, like 47 states or 43 states are like open now or are on their way back to reopening. Like, what the hell do they think's gonna happen, man? I think that they've decided that they don't care, that we're just gonna have to like rip the Band-Aid off and get used to deaths going on in the background as we return to normal life, and it just becomes background noise and just something that we deal with. I think that's the decision that's been made.
This is insane to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is not,
absolutely.
It's fucking insane to me. Like, when can you hug your family? When can you hang out with people? When can you like have dinner at a restaurant with friends? Like, that will be continuously pushed out the quicker we go back to work and they put us back to work to go make money for their donors. It's a problem. I don't know what to do. I no, seriously. I was thinking, like, ahead of recording this show, I was just like, what do we offer as solutions to these problems that we present? And I'm just not so sure we can discuss them. I'm really vexed. I don't know what to do, guys. Slather myself in fucking antiseptic and hope for the best. And I gotta be honest, I think one of the things that was really pulling me into a pit of despair this morning was I did myself the disservice of watching the video of the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. Yeah. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, my heart was fucking beating for like 5 minutes afterwards. And it was really brutal to watch. I'm sure anybody that like grew up on the internet has seen things that they were definitely too young to see, but seeing something like that is just I'm genuinely fucking disturbed watching that shit. I think it was like I don't remember who it was that said it online. It was just like, this is just a modern day lynching, like this psychotic fucking literally.
Yeah, lynching doesn't mean rope. It's a fucking extrajudicial murder. That's exactly what it is.
I don't know how to digest that one. And then coupled that, I saw this video from KTLA of this fucking cop just beating the shit out of somebody that was already complying, just standing there against a wall. And he literally tore off his own sunglasses and started laying in indiscriminately, firing blows at this dude. And I was like, fuck me. I don't know. I don't fucking get it. I feel like I'm going crazy watching all this stuff, and we can't like get together to talk about or organize or do something about it. I've also noticed quite a deficit of NYPD officers wearing masks as they're driving around. It's creepy out there, boys.
Don't take this as defending the cops, but you wouldn't necessarily need one driving around, would you? I mean, if they're out, if they're out in public.
Good question. I was thinking about that, but like, they as partners, if they're two people, as it often is in a car, and they go back to their families, like, how do they do that? Do they say, "Hey, bro, listen, You know, you in the cage got to be careful because, you know, I'm not trying to bring anything back to my family and whatnot. Granted, we are going through the separation. I don't know why that was. But like, I wonder how they do that. It is to be said that like NYPD specifically have become like super vectors for COVID.
Sure.
And just an enormous amount of them have called out because they're sick.
Well, I saw the thing. I mean, you know what they're doing now, where they use like this. This couldn't be right. It said 90% of the on-duty police force. I don't know if I read that wrong or not, but that they used Wednesday night to clear out the. They closed the subways overnight, and it's sort of an unprecedented move. And with the cover of deep cleaning them, but I mean, it's an anti-homeless thing, is what they were really doing, clearing out homeless people who've taken shelter, in the subways overnight due to lack of other places, to be during coronavirus. But yeah, and I was shocked that they're going to start doing that every night, I believe, for the remainder of coronavirus. What happens to those people?
I think I saw one of them was one person was being quoted, or I think there was like a reporter that was there. If I'm not mistaken, it was like at Church Avenue or something like that in Brooklyn, saying, where do these people go? And they're like, to the shelter. How do they get there? Hello? Like they would take the train, but it's closed down, so there's nothing for them to do.
Right. I mean, that's absurd. I mean, not every shelter works this way, but most shelters you can't just show up at 1 or 2 in the morning. You've got, what I'm saying. They've got rules. They got protocols. You typically have to be there in the late evening. Most cases 5 to 6, sometimes a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, you can't kick someone off a train at 1 or 2 in the morning and expect that they're going to a shelter. You're full of shit if you're saying that, as that's not the case.
And not only that, but like, what do we call this? Is it like economic cleansing? Like, is this a fascistic act to take a sector of people and pull them from the only place that they can be?
Yes. Yes.
Fuck. I think I tweeted this, but like I figured it would at least have been done by a Republican. But it doesn't fucking matter. It's the same interest.
I think, Chris, when you were talking about like this becoming like a nightly thing now that the NYPD is going to do, like for, the quote unquote remainder of the coronavirus. I forget which episode, but on an earlier episode we were kind of talking about like the kind of broad effect that the 9/11 attack had on, security, culture. I mean, culture as a whole, right? But like in terms of actual like policy vis-a-vis like policing, surveillance, like so many things got swept in those first years that followed that now are just part of like the background noise of American empire. Like they're totally inseparable, and these like things that like we can barely even question, stuff like, I mean, the entire creation of the TSA, fucking ICE, like all of these things that popped up that are now like, instrumental in the wielding of state power. And I wouldn't be surprised if like, when we talk about whatever, this particular anti-homeless policing policy being like extended to like, okay, till the end of coronavirus, like when is that even going to be?
Right.
No,
like, exactly, yeah.
It could just become part of like, this is now like the new normal, right? Like all of these things that are going to be pushed through, as like quote unquote emergency measures, right? Like very rarely, I mean, think like all that fucking shit that I was just talking about vis-a-vis 9/11, all of that was considered to be emergency measures that just never went away. Like that's just like bureaucratic creep, fascist creep or whatever. It's just the way that the state gets its tendrils into a variety of different things under a number of different pretexts. And even if it is meant in some way to like deal with this particular crisis, it always has other motivations. It always has other goals, other things that it seeks to accomplish. And those goals are perpetual. They're not contingent on whether or not there's like a fucking global pandemic. Those are just the goals and objectives of like the fucking security apparatus or the police apparatus, right? Like they want that overreaching control. They want to be able to fucking police like social distancing, which we've already seen is like a highly segregated fucking policy based on like racialized neighborhoods, right? Like,
dude.
Obviously in black, Hispanic, and immigrant neighborhoods, they'll fucking beat the shit out of you or arrest you or whatever for not social distancing. And in like fucking white, affluent neighborhoods, they'll like, say, how you doing? Here's a free mask.
They were passing out fucking masks!
Yeah.
They were passing out fucking masks in white neighborhoods and beating the shit out of people. I think it was like, where was that video? It was like up in Harlem or something like that. Beating the shit out of a dude.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you got to think, like, you know, in terms of, and I mean, we're seeing this with all of the various responses or non-responses, if you want to call it to that, to, like, the fucking, you know, this thing of a global pandemic. Like, in the best case scenario, right? Like, in the best case, like, good governance scenario, this would be, like, a really nightmarish thing to manage, right? Like, and you can't necessarily be super prepared for it. You know, there would always be these things that could happen one way or another. But, like, think about all of the, like, the fucking, like, who is tasked with taking care of this? It's, like, the police, the federal government, like, the state government, like, all, and all of those things are, we know to not only be inept, but, like, malicious. Like, they have, like, anti-human objectives, you know, mostly in the service of capital, but also then for other weird ideological things, like with the police, you know, where they, like, if they're already going to be, like, essentially like a fucking apartheid squad or whatever, then if you put on top of that, now there's a global pandemic, it's basically just saying do whatever the fuck you want with that pre-existing, like, operation. Like, those things don't necessarily shift, especially in such a rapid amount of time as this unfortunately kind of unfolded very quickly, because and again, because there was no, like, fucking real sense of warning or preparation from anybody. There was no sense of, like, oh, this is what we might have to do in this situation. It was just like suddenly within a fucking 2 weeks we went from the US official policy went from saying, like, this doesn't exist to everybody has to stay in their house forever. Right. Like, that happened, that decision occurred, like, very, very quickly.
What I was thinking about what you were saying, Shane, about how, you know, after 9/11, these kind of security theater things just never went away. There's certain, like, office buildings now that are installing, like, biometric scanners to take people's temperature before they even walk into the door. You know, that doesn't, you know, what happens on an elevator? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you social distance on an elevator? But what is the incentive for those things to go away? You know, for them to biometrically measure us on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, I mean, that's the joke I made when this whole thing started about, like, you know, once they start, like, once a temperature check, you know, or a fucking cheek swab or something is a prerequisite for getting on a plane, why are they ever going to stop doing that?
Yeah, of course not. I mean, they never think about it this, right? And this is the one I always go back to, because out of all the security theater things, this is, like, to me, the dumbest one, and the one that is so nakedly, like, just about, like, weird control. And it has nothing to do with reality whatsoever. The shoes, right? One time, guy failed at, like, lighting a match in his shoes, and because of that, for almost 20 years now, think about, like, literally, I don't know, in the hundreds of millions, billions of individual passengers have flown since then, and all of them have had to take off their fucking shoes, and it's nonsense. I mean, when a few months ago, when Carrie and I were flying, I don't even remember where, but we were going somewhere, and I was at the airport, and I noticed, you know, they have, like, the VIP fast lane or whatever. Yeah. And people just walk through with their shoes. Yeah. And I wanted to throw my shoes at him, like the guy who did it at Bush, and say, no, motherfucker, if I have to take my fucking shoes off, so do you. Everybody has to take... honestly, why even... What you should have to do, if this logic was to even persist, everybody should take your shoes off when you get to the airport, throw them in a giant incinerator, you go through the security point, then you buy new shoes, you get on the plane, when you get off the plane, you take those shoes, you throw them in a giant incinerator, and just every day is a new pair of shoes. Why the fuck not?
It's government issued shoes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Government issued, poorly made shoes.
Crocs. Everybody gets Crocs.
But I also think that, like, part of this is like Hanlon's razor, which is, I don't think it's entirely that it's like a purposeful fascistic creep. I think there's also just like a sort of liberal sensibility that says, I don't want to be the guy that says this is ridiculous and we can stop now. And then something happens and then all the fingers can be pointed at me.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's like, and again, the TSA stuff is a good example of this. It's like once those things are in place, they're all about like ameliorating a certain kind of fear. And then they just become part of normalcy, right? Even if it wasn't intended as like a specific like fucking control mechanism, eventually that's what it becomes de facto because of how it works, right? And like you said, nobody, you know, like the first time I flew is way back in probably like probably like 2012 or 2013. This was the first time I had gotten on a flight where they had installed those new full body scanner things, right?
Yeah.
And that now you have to walk through. And that was the first time I saw that. And when I saw that, I was like, fuck no. I'm absolutely not doing that. Like, what an incredible violation of my person. And I won't do it. So, and I like told the agent that. I was like, I don't do that. And they're like, well, then you're going to have to be subjected to like a pat down and a body search. I said, fine, go ahead, do it. I'm not going to walk through some fucking total recall machine that's going to give me cancer or whatever. Like, I'm just not going to do it. I don't give a shit. And so they took me aside and they like patted me down or whatever. And they were, you know, obviously they were like fucking annoyed or whatever that I wasn't just compliant to go do the thing. And so in my head, I was like stoically, haha, this is my little act of fucking, you know, resistance while I'm going on a fucking holiday trip to Mexico. And like, and I remember I was on the plane with the girl I was seeing at the time, and she was like mad. She was like annoyed that I had done that because she was like, we need to fucking get to the plane. Like, why are you taking the time? And it's just little things like that. So then eventually it got to the point where the next time I went on, I was like, ah, fuck it, I'll go through this stupid machine. Just because I just don't want to, like, I'm just too tired to make a scene. I'm a jet setter. I need to get to my locations. I need to travel the globe. You know, I don't have time to make a fucking point of contention every time I travel. And I think that's the same thing, like you're saying, is just going to be experienced with this. Like, nobody wants to be that person that's like doing the wrong things, and then everybody's going to overcompensate, and then as a result what that creates is then further overcompensation from everybody else, because then you get your social cues from everybody else you're seeing, and you're like, oh, everybody now is like going to work with like a fucking steel helmet wrapped in 5 feet of bubble wrap. Maybe I should too. And then it just becomes like that, and then that just becomes the normalcy of the new society. And it's unfortunate, and you know, in certain ways, like obviously there I'm painting like a silly picture of it, but in practice what it ends up becoming about is like, you know, this kind of broad sense of social control. And it sucks because there's not really like an appropriate good response to it. I mean, you can't like resist it at this particular moment, because like it is a public health concern. Like, it's a legitimate public health concern. I mean, that's why like everybody's making fun of and pointing out the stupidity of all those like right-wing protests or whatever, where like people are like holding signs that say like, let me go to Amy's Bakery or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's not good.
I saw this online that somebody posted a picture of in their office, like a corporate office, and on their desk phone, IT had come around and put a sticker on it that said, if active shooter, call 911. Okay. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, that's just staring you in the face every time you go to make a phone call at your desk. It's like you go to call your wife and say, hey, honey, what are we going to have for dinner? Should we defrost that chicken? Yeah. And then you go to make that phone call and you're just like, oh, that's right. My immortality is in question at any given moment. And why?
I mean, you know, to that end too, like in the school that I work at, I mean, obviously now I'm like never there. Like nobody's there. It's like a ghost town or whatever. But in all the you know, the elevators and stuff, there's like what to do in case of an active shooter. And when I was teaching at NYU, I had to take a course, like an online course that was like preparation for what you would do in the case of an active shooter thing. And it was a base requirement for all, like anybody who was teaching or was going to be a professor or whatever. I was adjuncting there. And so like it was just weird because like, especially as an adjunct, like you don't make any money. Like it made like no money, like not even enough to live. Like, yeah. And like, but it's also, but you know, and it's a huge amount of work too, right? And I mean, I was very happy to do it. I love teaching, and that's why I took the job. But like, it was like, wait, so if there's a fucking emergency shooter, I'm in charge of my like classroom? Like technically I am. Like I'm supposed to be like, so I'm supposed to impart this. It was like this whole fucking model that had been based off of some school in Texas had come up with this, and so they've repeated it now at a bunch of I guess universities and schools and stuff. It's like it's a three ordered plan. It's like run, hide, fight. Yep. So it's like if there's an active shooter, first thing you should do is run. If you can't run, you should hide. If you can't hide, you should fight. And then it gives you like how to do all of those things. And it was just like, dude, like, I'm trying to, like, think about what I'm gonna put on the next lesson plan. Like, is my slideshow okay? You know, like, I don't I don't know if I'm necessarily qualified to be responsible for a group of like 20 young adults in the case that like a fucking terrorist is attacking the school. You know, I mean, obviously nobody wants to be in that situation, but it was one of those weird things where it was like, you know, I remember like I was talking to some people about it, some friends of mine who, you know, also work in academia and stuff, and they were like, oh yeah, you just gotta like press the buttons at the end of the quiz, you know, to get through it. And it was just like one of those things of like normalcy, right? Where it's just like, because it's also the idea too that like you could take a 3-hour online thing that would qualify you for that or whatever. I mean, obviously it was in part informative to some degree or whatever, but it was mostly just like this weird bureaucratic pain in the ass thing where now it's just like, I gotta just click through this, you know, and register that it was the equivalent of scrolling down the terms of service agreement. Yep. You know, where you just scroll to the end and you say, yes, I agree. I will definitely, you know, not just piss myself if there's a fucking whack job with an AR-15 that enters this room.
But their hope is that at the end of it, you're like the fucking equalizer or something.
Right, exactly. You know what's curious about that one thing that I had kind of thought of, and I never really looked too far into it because I just, again, I didn't care to, but like I also wondered, like as I was doing that, like does this make me liable now? Like if something does happen?
Good question.
You know? Because what if it turns out, like obviously in my head, I am a fucking master of gun kata.
Right.
And if somebody came at me with a gun, within 3 moves, I would be able to disassemble their weapon and put them in.
They better not get within 15 feet.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But like in practice, what if, you know, Equilibrium was not a great training video for me and, you know, I can't test those skills properly and I do something wrong? Like, am I the asshole?
Yeah. What happened to the student resource officer, or whatever, the cop that was at this school in Florida that got shot, the Stoneman Douglas school? Because didn't he didn't go in? Like he specifically was just like, oh shit, I'm not going in there.
You know who would have gone in?
Who's that?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump would have taken them out one at a time.
He said it himself.
Yeah.
Are you? I don't remember that. Are you fucking serious?
Oh
yeah.
Man.
He claimed that he claims any situation he claims to be master.
Yeah,
of.
with or without a gun, he would have rushed in there.
He doesn't even fire his own people.
Right.
Dude, Chris, I was thinking about your post today because you posted the thing of him or like early presidency Trump, and you were like, that was really his golden moment.
Oh, his trip to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
He just fired Comey like 5 days earlier. He was on top of the world. He gets to go to Saudi Arabia, and they got his big fat dumb head on billboards all around the country, and he gets to like dance with swords and like touch that orb. I mean, he was glowing.
So weird.
Yeah.
Salad days, his real salad days, man.
It's funny, you know, I always think about that picture. It's that picture of him and King Salman and like everybody, you know, gathered around that globe with their hands on it, and it's like how do you, like, if you're terrified of like the globalists or whatever, how do you not look at that image, and like how is that not like just like something, a nightmare image that your mind couldn't even contrive of, like in like the deepest, most conspiratorial segments of your mind, you couldn't even invent that picture.
It's Illuminati.jpg is what the name of that picture is. It's insane.
How do they reconcile that, man? Seriously, like when they look at that, what do they see? They're like, oh, he really went there and showed them what for, instead of just looking at it and saying like, this is a movie poster for too much. Like it would be a way over the top movie.
It's an awesome picture.
It's pretty good.
It's such a good picture.
There's actually been some great pictures of the Trump presidency. That one, and then of course him with a very Kubrick-esque one of him with the burgers.
Oh yeah. Amazing.
Fucking art.
I think my favorite, when you said Kubrick-esque, I thought you were going to talk about this one. I think one of my favorite pictures of Trump is, I think it was he'd won the election. It was before his inauguration, and he's having dinner with Mitt Romney, who had like trashed him during the election, and like now he's like trying to like suck up to like get a fucking cabinet position or something, and like the look, like I mean, Trump is giving just the full-on Kubrick stare directly at the camera with this like sadistic smile, and like Romney just looks like a beat dog, dude. Just totally into submission.
It's true. I wish, second only, I mean, picture-wise, this doesn't touch it, but the fact that what Trump said about Heidi Cruz, literally saying, like, posting a picture, tweeting a picture of her being like, she's a dog.
Yeah. Maybe his father shot JFK. Who knows? Maybe
and then he fucking endorsed him. He endorsed him. And, like, week 2 of the Trump presidency,
spineless cowards.
He was like, honey, we gotta go have dinner at the White House with Trump and Melania. Can you fucking imagine sitting there eating a fucking McGriddle for dinner? I can't believe it. What a fucking slug Ted Cruz is.
Do you guys remember the day of the inauguration? Like, after the actual, like, ceremony of the inauguration, there's, like, a luncheon. There's like an inauguration luncheon where like all of the various, members of government have to go, like all the Joint Chiefs of Staff, military guys, like everybody has to go. And then like, they do this like stupid ceremonial toast, to a new president, whatever. And Trump was there and he's just sitting there. He's like, and I forget exactly what he said, but it was really funny because it was obviously like he had a scripted thing to say, but it kept going off script. And he was just like, I won. He just kept saying over and over again that he had won. And, like, you see, like, the fucking, like, heads of the armed services just, like, staring at this, like, weird, doddering old salesman.
It's great.
Like, blathering on. Oh, it was fantastic.
It's great.
So, and they're in this, like, beautiful fucking, the Hall of the Republic, whatever the fuck it's called.
Oh, yeah.
And there's, like, these mosaics from, like, the 19th century that were probably all built and fucking painted by slaves. And, like, but, like, of, like, the grand moments of the Empire of Liberty. And he's just there, like, I won, folks. I won the election. I'm president now.
No, that's exactly what I think about, like that, like you talked about, Dwight, that picture of him with the fucking burgers, like at this fucking, like in the dining hall, you know what I'm saying? Like, like some fucking like silver platter that was a gift to fucking Ulysses Grant from the King of Siam or something, just like stacked high with Big Macs.
It's just holding lukewarm Big Macs.
I love the idea of him at the luncheon just like walking to his seat and like crop dusting Chief Justice Roberts.
I mean, he's the perfect embodiment of just a fucking empire in decay, man. It doesn't get any more perfect.
But if Obama, like, this is what's so funny to me is that Obama, I know, spoke kind of at length, and I think he probably truly believes in like the sanctity in the of the office and like the proper transition of power, and like he either wasn't truly threatened by Trump because of, his transit of Obama's found class interest after being president, or he didn't care. But if he truly thought that he was like a threat to, because he was like on Jimmy Kimmel and be like, well, Donald, actually, I actually got to be president, or whatever it was. Like he would have, if he really thought that Donald Trump was like a proper threat to the Republic, like he would have put an ejector seat behind the Resolute desk, right? Like why he like, and yet he just sat there as Chief Justice Roberts swore in this flatulent lech, and was just like, "Yep, this is the way it's supposed to go." Bro,
there's have you guys seen the White House Correspondents' Dinner in I think it was 2013,
dude? And
it was the one where Obama, like, when he was up, because he always loved that because he was very friendly with the press. Right, he was always very funny and witty, smart guy. And
good timing. Good timing.
And he had good comedic timing and stuff. And I'm pretty sure it was 2013 or 2014 where like he took Donald Trump to task because Donald Trump was invited to the event. Yes. He was in the audience, and he started like making fun of him because that was around the time that Trump was doing all like the birther shit.
All kidding aside, obviously we all know about your credentials and breadth of experience. For example. No, seriously, just recently, in an episode of Celebrity Apprentice, at the steakhouse, the men's cooking team did not impress the judges from Omaha Steaks. And there was a lot of blame to go around, but you, Mr. Trump, recognized that the real problem was a lack of leadership. And so ultimately you didn't blame Little John or Meatloaf. You fired Gary Busey. And these are the kind of decisions that would keep me up at night.
And so like Obama like really lays into him, and does all of the late night comic shit about Trump. He's a failed businessman, he has awful hair, whatever. And he's he's digging into him, and then the camera cuts to Trump, and everybody around Trump is laughing,
Fuming.
and Trump has like a little bit of a smile on that he's trying to hold together, but you can tell he's so fucking mad. And I like
Digging
honestly
his fork into his thigh.
honestly, there's no bet, like every history that is eventually written about the like collapse of the empire has to have that as the like whatever the chapter is on the Trump decades, because it will at this point be like 30 or 40 years that we live under him.
Shit.
Like the preface to that chapter has to be that scene.
Definitely.
Because in that particular moment, that's when he's like, I gotta get him.
Yep.
I gotta get him. I
Yep.
gotta become president just so I can rub it in his face. And one of the things that Trump did that was one of the great liberal panics about like institutions, one of the first things he did was he said, I'm never going to that.
Yeah.
And so now it's just over. I mean, I think they
Great.
still do it or whatever, but which is good
Good
because
riddance.
it's a ridiculous
Yeah, good riddance.
fucking it's a stupid thing, but it's really like that's the moment you could see the wheels turning in, like the 4 neurons that work in his brain are all just like aimed at one goal.
And that was after Donald Trump was one of the biggest propagators of the birther movement.
Right.
And he still sent an invite to Donald Trump.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, that's what he did it so he can make fun of him to his face.
And
Obama was, that's what I was saying. He was deliberately like invoking that, which is just like, again, it's a ridiculous idea that like all you have to do is like, the emperor has no clothes kind of idea. Like all you have to do is like say the truth in a witty way and everybody will laugh at the big stupid man and he'll certainly never win Wisconsin. Or whatever. Like,
I think about, what it reminds me of is that that news kind of blooper clip of that old OG newsman that's like giving an interview in like a stairwell, and he's like, all right, back to you, and the guy's like being a prick, be like, well, finish the interview, ask them a question. He's like, well, I used to be your boss, and now what happened?
All right, it's back to you, Jim.
Ollie, don't let her go away. That's what. Does she have a response to that? Is she still there?
What's that?
Did the lady just leave?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad. We should have kept that discussion.
She's back if you want her.
Yes. She heard you. Yes.
What'd you like to know?
I would like to know a response to what the gentleman said. The gentleman's a very effective spokesperson for the company, but obviously the people who live there are not satisfied with his explanation.
Right. So what do you want now?
Well, if I have to teach you how to be a reporter, Ollie, I'll do that later.
Why don't you do that later, Jim? I think the lady expressed herself, and you're not here, you're there. Is there any question you'd like me to ask her?
And no, I'll give you lessons on how to become a reporter later
I'll
on.
give you some lessons on how to be an editor, because I was your boss once.
Yeah, you were, and are no longer. How did that happen?
Well, I don't
Here's
know.
Ernest DeMillo.
Oh God, what a fucking dumb era to live in. I don't know, maybe it was maddening like living under LBJ too. The fucking boomers that were just like, nah, I don't know. Maybe not all of them cared. That's what's funny now is that people are just like, I think we're all really waking up to, the system's not really working that well. It's like, do you know how many fucking people have been saying this for fucking years? It's just only now slightly affecting you.
yeah. I mean, I think it's also in part there's like a media effects thing of like it can be overstated, but like in the last 20 to 30 years, there's unprecedented explosion in like not only availability of media but like access to those like things of power. I mean, JFK was like the first president who really did like press conferences and shit, and and after that, I mean, you had like Reagan did them a lot, but it was always like a mix. It was always slightly on the rise, and then really it was like the Clinton years and then onwards where it was just like a boom explosion to the point where, like, you know, you have the president now, he's like literally just like tweeting 12 times a day, and there's entire journalists now whose whole career, I mean, like we were talking with Jared about like having a fucking, you know, pay attention to One America News Network or whatever for his beat. Like, there are entire journalists now who are like fucking, like, imagine your job is you have to track everything Trump says, like on Twitter. And in fact, one of the weird things, Twitter actually advertised that right after the election in other countries. Twitter was had like these adverts that just had like a silhouette kind of graphic vector thing of Trump's face. And they were basically like, if you want to know what the empire is going to do, you have to be on Twitter. Because now, like, the emperor is like, using Twitter.
Fucking
I mean,
what?
you know, they used less, maybe, provocative language than I just did. But they were literally advertising their platform as, like, and specifically to other countries. Like, hey, if you want to find out if you're going to get invaded by the United States, you're probably going to want to be on Twitter.
Fuck me. I suppose there are some positives to that, which is one that sticks out in my mind is Rex Tillerson, who apparently was fired either over Twitter or over the television, and somebody told him while he was on the toilet that he was fired as Secretary of State. I mean, again, ExxonMobil has its own foreign policy. They're one of the largest oil extractors in the world. They're one of the largest single contributors as an apparatus to climate change and our eventual deaths as anyone. And to have the king of that fiefdom be fired while taking a shit, there is some justice in that. That does feel pretty good. He, in fact, had quite a haircut that looks like he's been in quarantine for 2 months. He had one of the worst haircuts of anybody that's ever been in that cabinet. One ugly fucker.
I need a haircut, man.
Buddy.
The Tillerson conversation has made you self-conscious. Yeah.
That's kind of where I got it from. I was like, fuck. Like, I got out of the shower. I was like, I'm gonna look like fucking Tillerson if this keeps going. And now I just look like a dollar store Gordon Gekko.
My hair is beautiful and it'll keep growing. I'm fine with it.
It's a gorgeous mane.
Beautiful, luscious locks.
That's right.
Sometimes I wonder if I'll grow my hair out again, but I just think I'm too old for that.
You're never too old, dude.
No, I had
You will be soon, but
I had really long hair, like most of my high school years, most of my 20s. Having short hair is a relatively new experience for me.
How far down did it go?
Oh, it's gone halfway down my back.
Holy shit.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Yeah, from the ages of about 15 to 18, I also had, like, all the way down my back.
Yeah.
Really long.
Whoa.
You had a rat.
Really?
Shane had a rat tail.
No, dude, I was so much cooler, dude. I had a ponytail.
I did too, yeah.
And like,
wow.
I practiced with like samurai swords and
Hell
shit.
yes, dude.
Oh,
And like,
Shane.
and I got this like leather thing at this military surplus store, like a leather matrix jacket, you know, like a overcoat kind of thing. And I had the cool like matrix sunglasses, and I would like practice with my fucking swords and shit. I was cool as hell.
But it's really funny because like I had long hair and a beard for a long time, and like I typically kept the hair like, you know, in a bun, and then like somewhere I guess around like 2012 2013, like all of a sudden that became like I just stumbled ass backwards into being incredibly fashionable for like a year. Because like that,
you're right.
That became a thing. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool back then.
Shane, have you ever been to Bemelman's Bar at the Carlisle in the Upper East Side in Manhattan?
No, I don't think so.
It's a pretty, this is going to be so stupid to even bring up, but it's a really interesting bar. The entirety of the walls is an entire mural made by a famous artist, which fuck me if I'm trying to look for it right now. It was a mural by, what the fuck was his name? His name was fucking Bemelman. Fucking idiot. Ludwig Bemelman.
Okay.
Right.
And anyway, it's like, you know how I always talk about like if I want to go to any party in the world, it would be at the party from The Shining.
Okay.
In the Overlook Hotel. It's like that, like a very old school Upper East Side sort of thing.
Okay.
The one time I've been there, I just went there by myself. I brought my book. In fact, it was Understanding Socialism by Richard Wolff, part of Democracy at Work. And I went there and I ordered my drink. I ordered a Gibson. And there was a dude there, Chris, which you're reminding me of, with a man bun and a beard and wearing unironically like a vest with like dark colored jeans.
Oh, hell yeah.
And this was like last year. It wasn't like this wasn't dating itself. And I still think about that guy sometimes because I know he was like there with like a group of friends. And I know he was like, yo, I'm going to put this on and I'm going to look cool. And to be honest, it kind of ruined the experience for me. I'm serious. Because I wanted Lloyd to say to me like, what'll it be, Mr. Torrance? Well, Lloyd, you're the best damn bartender from Timbuktu to fucking Portland, Maine. Portland, Oregon, for that matter. And here I was watching this dude with a man bun being like, I actually play guitar. Fuck. I'm sweating right now from like secondhand embarrassment for that guy.
Yeah.
Took me out of the entire experience. Made one hell of a drink though.
So I think what I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do, I don't know, should I just maybe try to order another vape? Because what I might go ahead and do is go ahead and like order the juice at least, because I can refill these pods. Because I'm just, I can't keep buying the pods.
Right, yeah.
So maybe I'll get the juice and just start refilling the pods until I can get the vape, or should I just maybe get a different vape?
I mean, the one I got, it was really more of like one I got out of convenience. Like there's like a bunch that are similar to this. I mean, it sucks obviously with the coronavirus stuff. Like you could probably just go to a store if there was still one open and like, they could like really help you out. I'm going to look up and see if I can find another place that sells it.
Yeah, because I'm fairly sure that same vape my old roommate had and he just got from a store. Some of these, I probably wouldn't have really somebody who could help me out like I would at the vape store, but like some gas stations have like a glass case where they've got,
Yeah.
some like bodegas and stuff have the shit.
You know what actually might be of use to you? Like, and this is what I did. This was actually when I really first started coming back online at all, which is now a weird memory that I had this. I went on, the first time I ever went on like social media post like 2011 was like when I was looking for a vape, and I went on Reddit. I went on the vaping subreddit and I asked people questions. And because it's such a weird like machismo fucking subculture, just like everybody wants to talk to you about it. Everybody's like, oh bro, like to fucking this vape and to that vape or whatever. And it started to piss me off. So then I started fighting with them, and then I was like, oh, I'm back, baby. I'm back on the internet. But you can you could probably go in there.
So if I want to get a fucking SpaceX Pickle Rick vape, Reddit's the place to get the recommendations. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, because like I kept trying to say like what I want is something really simple, and they were all like, here's this like $300 like insane thing where you have to like fucking, you have to like, because there's a bunch of them, because basically the reason why I have this is because the coils, which are these things, right? They come pre-made, but there's a bunch of them where you make the coils yourself, where it's basically you have to buy cotton and like wrap it around a thing and like soak the cotton, and everybody's like, oh, it's really easy to do. It's like, I just want the nicotine. I don't want like a hobby,
right.
Yeah. I have other hobbies. Like I don't want this to be something that I spend like hours on a week. I want it to be something I kind of forget about until it starts to poison me. Then I'm like, oh, I need to fucking swip the thing. That's the level of engagement I'm interested in with this particular thing.
And they are poisoning you. The coils, as I understand them, are that's the really dangerous thing, because I think I've mentioned this before, because they're made of, I think that the metals that they're made out of are like, I believe, cadmium and a couple other different metals, and because it has to be made out of that type of metal, because because the coil is the heating element. It heats the fucking vape, and it heats the juice and vaporizes it. And in order for the battery to be that small, you have to make it out of those metals. If you were to make it out of like different, like perhaps safer metals, you'd have to have a fucking like a car battery. You couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But those metals, they break down and they can pass through your lungs, but they can't pass through your kidneys. So they will accumulate in your kidneys. So I think that unfortunately, we may all be on fucking dialysis fucking 30 years from now if we keep vaping. Who knows? But that's why it's important to change the coils regularly, because if you don't do that, you you're contributing to, fucking heavy metals building up in your kidneys.
Fuck yeah, heavy metal.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
dude.
that's fine. That's cool. I'm good.
I mean, I don't plan on,
Whatever.
personally, I don't plan on living 30 years anyway. So,
Please.
it's fine, man.
Please. We need all the Chris we can get. In fact, I was speaking of Reddit. I just went on to the Eat the Rich subreddit, which I forgot exists for a period of about 2 months. And somebody posted here the screenshots of Chris, your tweets to Carpe Donktum about Carpe Donktum. I'm gonna push you around town in a big Victorian baby carriage and feed you Cheerios, my dude.
That was one of the funniest days I ever had online. I was at work. I was at work at some awful telemarketing job that day that happened, and I could not I couldn't even be on the phone. I could not stop laughing. Like when he started replying and started quote tweeting me, and then all his followers started replying, I couldn't handle it, dude. Could not even keep my laughter to myself.
It's so, dude. I think my favorite is this one. I'm gonna leave you in my car while I grab lunch with my boys at Buffalo Wild Wings, but then I'm going to get shit hammered drunk and forget you're out there.
That was the first one he quote tweeted, and he's like,
yes.
He's like, this is pretty weird. You're goddamn right it is, dude.
It's so funny to see this now because we were talking last week with Jared Holt about Carpe Donktum on One American News Network, and here it is live.
Speaking of Reddit, one thing, Shane, I know you remember this. Like when I was playing a lot of Civilization 6, like a month or so ago when I first got it, and I kept like going on Reddit and like, because that game has a bit of a learning curve, and I'm trying to like get strategy and figure stuff out. So I'm like going on Reddit and searching stuff, but like I found like so many examples of like just like fucking epic Reddit guys like on the Civ 6 subreddit to be like, well, like if you're like me, you called your religion libertarianism.
Yeah.
I create a custom religion and I call it libertarianism. And then there's another guy, like there's so many like fucking like epic libertarian guys and like epic fucking new atheist guys, saying I call my custom religion science and logic.
Is that still going? Are there still those dudes out there? Is that still real?
Man.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Fuck me.
I mean, there's a lot of overlap in that space to the in the sort of alt-light and alt-right pipeline stuff,
Right.
I mean, speaking of One America News, I've been following them. I started following them a little bit before we did that episode, but then, I've been paying more attention to it ever since then.
I have too.
And most recently, fucking Dave Rubin went on there.
No.
Because he has that new book that's like, Don't Burn This Book, and everybody's like making fun of him online. Like all the reviews for it is like, this book fucking sucks. Like Dave Rubin is an idiot, and so now he's like using that. It's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if like he personally astroturfed his own fucking replies, because the whole grift is based around this false idea that like somehow he's being censored, even though he's like has his own fucking very incredibly popular YouTube show and like just came out with a book, and he's like, I'm being censored or whatever. But yeah, he recently went on there to be like, and because his whole position, his whole thing is like, I'm like a centrist, I'm like a classical liberal. That's his line.
What the fuck does that mean, dude?
He had a video. I mean, it's still up, but he did a video a couple of years ago. It's one of the most popular videos on PragerU called "Why I Left the Left."
Yes,
he started. He was like a TYT guy. He was like, I believe he had a show, or he was like an associate or something of the Young Turks Network, which is sort of like a progressive liberal online news thing. And like I guess he got into fights there and he got fired or he left or whatever. But the way he puts it is like, his whole thing is like, I'm for like classical liberties, but the left wants to shut you down. The left wants to control what slurs you say or whatever. Like, he's one of those guys. But yeah, I mean, it's all in that same fucking milieu, dude. And there's a lot of them in like the video game space for obvious reasons. But as Chris, you were saying, in particular, like the strategy game space, because certain strategy games, stuff like Civilization or like the Paradox Interactive games, they deal with like, big social ideas ideas. Like they deal with like politics, even if it's in a superficial way. You know, they'll deal with like, you know, political systems, economic systems. You know, civilization is like an attempt to model the like progress of history or whatever. And so as a result of that, it's a real attraction point for a lot of those guys who are basically just dilettantes who want to be like, you know, peddle their stupid, undeveloped political ideas and like argue with people online about them and shit. It's really weird.
Speaking of the Young Turks too, I don't know if we want to talk about this, but Cenk showed his whole ass on Twitter.
Yeah, not the first time.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not. And I was thinking about it. I was like, you know, from his point of view,
this is the same thing. I'm sorry to cut you off. This is the same thing I said, like when everybody acted shocked about his reaction to the Young Turks union. Like he is a fucking shit lib, and he always has been. Like he's not. Like, what do you expect? That's who he is. He's not a fucking leftist or the fucking socialist or anything.
And for the listener, what he wrote was he quote tweeted Donald Trump that was writing some insane screed on Twitter about sanctuary cities or something. And he wrote, if we had a Democrat with balls when we take over, they'd cut off funding to red states and make them beg for their handout. Almost all of them are welfare queens who live off the blue states. Republican-run states are on average miserable failures who take more from federal government.
Just the most egregious example of just smug liberalism, dude.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think the way you put it, Chris, is really good in terms of like him always having been like a shit lib or whatever. Because like the thing is, and I've been thinking about this a lot with what ended up coming out of the primary and like where do you go from here? Like the Bernie Democrat, right? It was a pretty like pluralistic like fucking group of people who it appealed to, and there were a lot of like regular kind of liberal people who consider themselves kind of like vague progressives or whatever, who are just like, yeah, I'm into this. Like I want like these like kind of big structural change things to happen, but like they're not actually like particularly radical. Like they could conceivably be on that path or whatever, but especially like a guy like Cenk or whatever, you know, that kind of category. There are lots of people like that who are just like, you know, they were with Bernie and they might be with like further iterations of a Bernie style Democrat, but they're not like looking for fucking socialist revolution or even like a radical critique of capitalism. Like they're not interested in that. What they want is like they are actually in a weird way the smartest of the liberals, just in the sense of like they understand that in order to preserve the liberal state you need like a fucking giant welfare state attached to it. Like that's really the extent of their fucking political investment. And yeah, they're very much in that weird like teamy kind of thing, like, you know, the blue states, red states, like they are the kinds of people who they're like, when we were talking about the other day, like the very liberal to very conservative scales or whatever,
I love that shit,
like
dude.
they're the people who are like, we are the very liberal.
Right.
That's and for them that's what they mean. Like they're just and they conceive of themselves as being like, we're the farthest left possible. We like Bernie Sanders, you know, like which is amusing.
It's hilarious.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of like, I don't know, expecting any kind of outside, I watched them a bit during like the 2016 primary season, just because they were one of the few places where you could regularly get like news about the primary that wasn't like totally shitting on Bernie. But like even in the midst of that, and then especially afterwards, like they became like, all right, well, we gotta push Hillary through to, you know, to fucking keep Trump out or whatever. They're gonna do the same shit if they haven't already. I mean, I haven't watched that program in years, but like,
lest we forget that Chris, you have been a topic on the Young Turks.
That's true.
Oh yeah.
Cenk has had the words "Muller Dad 69" come pass through his lips.
That's true. That's very true.
Happened. That happened.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you. good for you. I have a lot to learn from you, Chris, and I hope I'm kind of like building up to something, because I've created this LinkedIn profile, this like catfish LinkedIn profile.
I need to do that, yeah.
And oh, dude, it's remarkably easy. In fact, I don't want to. Yeah, I'll give. Oh, I don't remember what it's called. There's some website that a friend of the show gave to me, because I was like, let me go find like just a picture on Google Images. You know, it's like a profile picture. But there's a website that generates faces.
Okay.
That are like algorithmically
right. Yeah.
And they're fresh every time you refresh the page. So this person who is now my catfish profile on my LinkedIn thing, so I can hopefully go waste like Deutsche Bank's time, is it'll never exist again. It's just the one that I have saved on my hard drive. So what I don't know what to do with it though. And where it came from originally too was like, I wonder what it's like to walk in, to proverbially walk into one of these institutions that these elite institutions as an elite person, because clearly I have no fucking idea what that's like, right?
Sure.
Like I have no business being there, and I wonder what it's like to be in there and walk in and be like, oh, I'm part of the club, and you need to give me the respect that you would give to any other person that is part of the club. And I don't know what to do yet, but I'm up to like 200 or so connections on LinkedIn with this profile, and I'm really excited.
I was looking at I just noticed yesterday I still have the Nextdoor app on my phone. I was looking at that and I was like, man, I should make a new profile on there, because that was really, really fun. Like when my last Twitter account got banned, I went right to Nextdoor and I made an account on there, and I had about a good, just really solid 6 hours of fun on there before they banned me from there.
Yeah.
I was actually quite surprised at like the amount of activity just in my local area and like how responsive they were. Because I think I did like 2 posts. One of them was like, I've noticed my mailman has been really rude to me since I put my Donald Trump flag up. Is this legal? Is this legal? Is he allowed to do this? Like, he won't say hi back to me. I got a lot of responses on that, and a lot of people were like, well, he shouldn't do that's. I don't think it's against the law, but that's really rude of him. That was the general consensus. And then the other one I did, which was really, really fun for me, was like I came home from dropping my kid off at school this morning, and there was a police officer defecating in my backyard. Like
Dude,
who do I even,
I love that one.
Who do I even call about this? Like, what do I do? And like I love
that one.
I got a lot of responses on that one, which was really good. It's like, well, maybe he was sick.
You gotta go. Oh, dude, I'm sorry. I meant to mention this earlier about cops. Somebody, I wish I could credit them from Twitter, but they wrote about all those, 1,000 cops that went into the subway to go, exterminate homeless people. This guy wrote, now Bane can seal them in. I'm sorry to derail that just for that, but I forgot about it.
So I was thinking a lot, with this story in the news. I was never homeless in New York City, but I was homeless in San Francisco in the Bay Area. And the way it works there is that there is a train system. There's the BART, there's the Bay Area Rapid Transit. It's not an all-night train. And so there's lots of homeless people that, obviously use it as a shelter and will be on it a good chunk of the day. And so the train terminates for the night, sometimes at the airport. It has, there's several different lines. One of the lines terminates at the airport. And so a lot of people would homeless people would ride to the airport, and then they'd try to sleep at the airport. And then now they have cops waiting for them when they get off, and then they give them a bus ticket, and there's a bus outside the airport that takes them back to the city, takes them back to San Francisco. And there's another train line that terminates in a town called Pittsburgh, which is in, I think, Contra Costa County, maybe. Yeah, it's Contra Costa County. It terminates there, but if you ride to the end of the line there, you're stuck. There's no if you fall asleep or whatever, if you ride the train there, there's no bus that's going to take you back to the city. You're way out in the suburbs. And so there's and it's become a cause for concern among people who live in that area, because every night they have this little temporary homeless encampment that springs up at the fucking train station, and then they clear out every morning. There's a bus that runs between the city and I think Palo Alto all night. So there's all these I personally never did that. I never spent the night just riding a train or a bus or something, but there's as someone who was out there, I was aware of all of these lines, all these train lines and bus lines that people would stay the night on. And a lot of people fucking depend on that for shelter, especially if it's cold or rainy. What the hell else are you gonna do?
Exactly.
So I've been thinking a lot about that.
I can't imagine, man. I mean, I've obviously never had that experience, and I just can't fucking. It's just I don't get it.
Now I really derailed it.
No, I just...
Way to bring us down, Chris. Thank you so much.
This whole episode has been a fucking yo-yo, huh?
It's been a roller coaster, boys.
It has. Fuck me. We started off pretty bleak, too, so it might as well bring us back and land us safely where we were before we started.
I'm just spinning my Roger Stone, man.
How is it?
My Roger Stone?
Yeah.
It's great.
Is it?
Yeah. I love it, dude.
Dude, I was scrolling through the Patreon the other day, and I saw the picture from the episode that we did where we were talking about going to that Chinese restaurant in the Lower East Side. I was like, God, I want to get dinner with the boys, and that's probably going to happen in a very long time.
Yeah. To the listeners, we, the three of us celebrated a little personal milestone about a week ago. May 1st of last year was the first day that we all actually met up and hung out in person.
That's right.
May Day.
May Day, buddy. So that was pretty.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I think we're coming up on the first year anniversary of this show. I think that's July, maybe
July,
June.
yeah, some point in July.
I'm not sure.
We'll do something nice then.
Live stream and get kicked off Twitch.
Yeah. I think I only have like 2 strikes left or something left on my Twitch
Seriously?
account. Yeah, I've gotten kicked off. I mean, not for anything super egregious, but just like because the few times that we tried to like stream the debate or whatever, because I was just recording a feed from CNN on my computer, which apparently is illegal. And the thought police are gonna destroy my Twitch account, and I'm gonna write a fucking book called "Why I'm a Big Baby Brained Idiot," and then everybody's gonna call me a fucking moron on Amazon, and then I'm gonna go on fucking some awful
OANN.
show that's I'll go on fucking One America News and be like, the thought police of the left are trying to censor my big baby brain diaper head because I'm a fucking moron.
Dude, I'm all in on the Twitch streaming. I don't know if you guys saw, but I've been doing some Twitch streaming with Jordan.
Yeah, I got to get into that, man.
Dude, it was fucking surreal.
I keep finding like a one-player game and it's like all I want to do. Like I tried whatever it's called, Warzone or whatever, the new Call of Duty. I hated it, dude.
See, you have to hate gaming, otherwise you'll like it too much.
Yeah.
But it was a fucking bizarre moment because Jordan was very kindly doing like a 48 hour Fortnite marathon on Twitch.
I can't stand Fortnite, dude.
It's challenging, but I ended up doing the Twitch stream. It was like 4:00 on Sunday, and I was doing a battle royale, and I was on a team with Jordan, Justin Jackson of the LA Chargers, and Hassan Piker.
Were they pretty good? They probably hated you, man.
Oh, not only worse than hating me because I had never really played Fortnite before. You'll love this. The computer or like the server.
How do I build?
I didn't even build. Fuck building. I can't even. Dude, it took me at least a half an hour to drop an item and give like Hassan a fucking shield or whatever. But like, there was the server gave us like only shitty AI to play against, and they wouldn't allow for us to play actual other players.
How?
Even though we were like, because they know I'm a fucking soft shoe.
Oh god.
And so it was pretty brutal. Much obliged to Jordan for letting me on, and many apologies to Hassan and Justin for bringing down the whole team.
Yeah, I've been thinking about getting in on the Twitch streaming thing, man. I should do it.
Dude, you would be so good, Chris.
I think even if I could play like I don't even have to play multiplayer. I could just fucking play a one-player game and just fucking monologue, right?
Do you know what I would give to be able to just go to a website and listen to you talk? And I know you.
Yeah.
All Chris all the time.
The Chris America News Network.
Please. But there's like you need some hardware too. Like you need a computer to be able to handle the whatever fucking thing.
Out. Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, no, I know it's a thing. Maybe we should just create a new Patreon tier to be like, look, we just need like
get Chris a gaming rig.
$1,200. $1,200 to get Chris on Twitch.
A GoFundMe.
Yeah, let's just do a GoFundMe. All proceeds go to Chris to help him get on Twitch.
We start sending out emails like, we know this is a trying time, yes. but we're here for you too.
We know that at least 1/5 of you have lost your jobs. But can't we all agree that we could at least be in quarantine listening to Chris? And I would rather do that. Oh God, this has been a yo-yo episode. We should call it here. We should call it here.
Before we get brought down again,
Yeah, exactly. So I can go play Call of Duty. I'm gonna get better at Fortnite, and then I will emerge out of my chrysalis like a building king, and still get my brains blown out all over the battlefield by some 12-year-old.
I'm gonna make a fucking Fortnite account or whatever just to troll you. I've never played the game.
Please.
But I'm sure I could just like build something around you so you can't escape.
I like doing the lumberjacking. I like taking down trees and stuff with a little axe and stuff. Okay. And you can do. We lost Chris. Well, I guess we're done.
Yeah.
I guess we're done with the recording.
Yeah.
Stay cool.
Stay cool.
On behalf of Chris, stay cool.